What celebrity have you lost all respect for? Why? My brother is a detail actor in Australia. Has worked with Rebel Wilson a fair bit. Said she's the most unpleasant person he's ever encountered. Makes everyone treat her like an absolute diva and runs through assistants like Epstein through massages. I didn't have an opinion about her before he told me, but it's not an uncommon sentiment in the acting world. She had a body double for a film they were both in. She lost a bunch of weight before filming and became really opinionated about having somebody who accurately represented her idea of her body. She finally settled on somebody. This is usually the role of the casting crew based on your height and weight, but she insisted she had final say. The body double showed up on set and Rebel decided the woman had put on weight between casting and filming. She grabbed the poor woman's hips and stomach on the set and yelled at the casting crew for bringing a hippopotamus on set to represent her. Well, thanks a lot Reddit for all the vague comments not explaining why these celebrities fell from grace. My Google search history now reads as a who's who of celebrity pedophiles and sexually assaulters. After watching Leah Remini, Scientology and the aftermath, any celebrity involved with the Scientology church is pretty off-putting. Dr. Phil. Now I realize he just uses sick-minded people for his own profit. He brought the creator of Bump Fights on the show and kicked him off after showing up dressed as Dr. Phil. The guy said Dr. Phil and him did the exact same thing. Phil just hit it better. After seeing that clip, I have no respect for Dr. Phil. Mark Salling being a massive freaking pedophile will never not upset me. I know pretty much the whole cast of Glee are problematic, but he's by far the biggest and grossest letdown. It taints any rewatches. R. Kelly. Growing up, I loved his music. I would walk down the halls of school singing I'm a Flirt. Now, I am ashamed that I was so into his music as a teen. Ellen DeGeneres. She made Taylor Swift cry and practically bullied her on Live TV. Outed Mariah Carey's pregnancy. Need I go on? She treats her guests like trash. Jeffrey Jones. In so many good movies, somehow still working. Real piece of a shoot. James Corden. I used to be a real big fan of him and his old Gavin and Stacey stuff, and I even liked the lesbian vampire movie too, even though a lot of people hated it. And then the stories of how he treats people, even his own family, started to roll out and I'm like, frick this guy. Haven't seen Jenny McCarthy yet. Probably missed it. But man. OJ. Many here are too young to realize just how beloved the juice was before. Steve Tyler. For convincing parents to sign a 14-year-old over to him. After a few years of drugs, fricking and an abortion. Dumping her back on their doorstep at 17. Massive aunt. I just today found out about the 2009 Polanski petition and the 100 celebrities that signed it. So all of them. Gwyneth Paltrow and her shooty goop products that are bad for you. I scrolled pretty far and didn't see him. Danny Masterton. I seriously loved Hyde in that 70s show. Growing up I wanted to be like that also. He's a sexually assaulter piece of shoot. Lost any and all respect I had for the guy. Chris Brown. Can't believe he's still out there making music like nothing happened. I see how good Roman Polanski is as a filmmaker. I cannot get over what he did. I used to love Kevin Spacey, and well, we all know what happened there. Nicki Minaj. Staking by multiple pedis and sexually assaulters and intimidating, discrediting their victims is a real deal breaker. Betty White. Can't believe she went and died on me like that. James Charles. I think people who know him already know why. Joss Whedon. He was a hugely influential voice in my formative years. A man I looked up to when I had none in my real life. I even met him and he was everything I dreamed he would be. To say I was devastated is an understatement. I got pretty into the TV show Glee in 2020 and I didn't know most of the cast beforehand. So it's not like I was a fan of anyone, but after I heard about Lea Michele's ugly behavior I was truly appalled. I don't know how anyone can support her. In a nutshell, she disrespected a ton of people she have worked with ever since she was a little girl. She threatened to fire people, belittled the staff, called them cockroaches, Told a coworker she would shoot in her wig and other nasty things. Shame, since she's a talented singer. Matt Lauer. I used to watch fricking NBC every single morning before school for a decade, and then he does something so grossly specific as to have a button under his desk to lock people in is just for real. Rachel Ray. I used to love her back in the late 2000s and watch her 30-minute meals program all the time on Food Network. I even bought some of her cookbooks. Then I found out she's a monster to fans in real life and she started shilling for corporate America and doing her lousy talk show. It broke my heart. Now I've lost all respect for her and don't bother watching anything she does anymore. Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil. After seeing them promoting their $ elf serving merchandise. Nicki Minaj, because she seems to align herself with sexually violent people. Charlie Sheen. The guy is a self-centered a-hole, had an entire show around him and was thrown out after turning on everyone. Then some other network just gave him a vehicle show where he barely showed any work ethic, and when his co-star called him out on that, he had her fired. Stop rewarding people for being a-holes. Ellen DeGeneres. Man, I remember how awesome I thought Ellen's energy adventure was, and she's also the voice of Dory and she just seemed so nice, but turns out, she's a massive a-hole. Gwyneth Paltrow. I used to like her BC Iron Man. Now I know she's either a scam artist with no morals or absolutely bonkers with no morals. Drake Bell. Sexually assaulted teenage girls and got a slap on the wrist for it. Also abused his exes. R. Kelly, because among other things he PI on Alia. Bill Cosby. For obvious reasons. The man was a pillar of my childhood. He helped teach me to read on the Electric Company, taught life lessons on Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, entertained as Dr. Huxtable on The Cosby Show and all those comedy albums through the years. Fricking serial sexually assaulter. Finding out on the news he was actually a total piece of shit that whole time broke my heart. Allison Mack. Shrek's cult and ex-IVM was engaged in trafficking in women. Melissa Gilbert. My mother loved her in the 70s, so one year I got her Gilbert's cookbook and surprised Mom by taking her to a book signing near where we live in the Midwest. She was over the moon excited to meet her. We finally get up to the table and Ms. Gilbert was rude to my mother and hurried her through. Mom was crushed. I now will not watch anything with her in it. My mind goes back to the rude, entitled woman she was. Shia Labeouf. I was one of the holdouts who argued he was misunderstood as an artist and a person. Soon as the FKA Twigs story came out, I couldn't bring myself to continue being a fan. Dude needs help, and if we're being real, probably needs to do time. I'm surprised no one has mentioned Oprah Winfrey yet. Not only did she give a major platform to Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil, she also was good friends with Harvey Weinstein and kept her mouth shut about him. Then went on to give a pro-Me-Too speech at the Oscars after he was arrested and got thunderous applause. What a twat. Wendy Williams. She is just an ugly person on the inside in general. She has threatened and belittled staff, farted on national TV, and blamed the chair. She likes eating Slim Jim's jailhouse style, heating up with a Bic lighter. So cringy. She outed Method Man's wife for having cancer just to get ratings. Once she started catching heat, now she's claiming she may have dementia or mental disorders, and that's what caused her to do all the stuff she did. Total cop-out. Those are just a few things. Dan Schneider. A producer on Nickelodeon. I've heard people talk about him grooming cast members on shows like iCarly. Whoopi Goldberg. Defended Roman Polanski as sexually assaulting a minor by saying it wasn't sexually assault. Go to hell. And ever notice how Ellen's real enthusiasm and excitement only comes out when she's jump-scaring people? She has dead eyes for the entire interview until some fricker dressed as a spider jumps out on her guest. Then she lights up like a Christmas tree at the sight of their fear. Chrissy Teigen was an advocate for being kind to people online and then had been cyberbullying Courtney Stodden amongst others. Shia LaBeouf. Because he hid the fact that he had herpes, he intentionally infected FKA Twigs and one other woman before he was with FKA Twigs. He went so far as to use makeup on to cover up his symptoms so neither woman would notice his nasty ass sores. I used to respect Mitch Hedberg. I still respect him, but I used to too. You can call him a celebrity, but Joel Osteen, especially after the whole thing happened in Houston. I remember getting ready for church Sunday morning and my nana used to cut his show on the TV while we got ready. But seeing the guy he turned out to be, I've lost respect for him. Chevy Chase. I wasn't a die-hard fan, but I used to respect him a whole lot more for the work he put in and made. He's not as terrible as a lot of people listed here, since to my knowledge he hasn't diddled anyone. But it came out that he's more like Ellen DeGeneres, where he's pretty toxic, and there's a lot of anecdotal stories of him just being a dong. Still appreciate what he did, but he definitely got knocked down a few pegs in my books. That said, Dan Harmon didn't exactly help the situation when it came to Community, so I'll give Chevy credit where credit is due. Since without his name attached to the show, I'm not sure if they'd be able to attract some of the big-name cameos they had, like Betty White. May she rest in peace. On another note, Allison Mack, the actress who played Chloe on Smallville. I used to regret not meeting her in person when she was a guest at one of the conventions I went to every year. Then the charges were brought up and she pleaded guilty to Shrek's trafficking for a cult. The only thing I can think would be worse is if the age of the people she brought in were minors. I stopped reading after she was charged, and eventually after she pleaded guilty. Anything more would make me hate her more, and or she was part of any of the other big cults.